I just think your image of the child will determine whether schema play is something that I plan and lead an activity for so that they meet my curriculum goal, or whether it is something that we provide for children because we know they deserve it. We can trust them. We can trust that that process has meaning, whether we completely understand it or not.
Hi, this is Rusty Keeler, and you're listening to the Play Nature Podcast, where we talk about play, nature, playing in nature, and the nature of play. I'm glad you're here. Let's have a listen. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Rusty.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good to see your smiling face.
Yay, I'm so excited.
Yay. So I'm excited to dive into things, but we'll start with your bio. I'm feeling a little bashful because I'm just beginning a podcast and you are like the podcast master, early childhood nerd.
That's so funny because I literally just record a Zoom conversation and put it out there. Like, I don't do anything fancy.
But I mean, you've been doing it for how long now?
9 years. In August, it was 9 years.
That's incredible.
It's nuts.
Yeah. And like how many episodes?
I think this week was like 376 or something like that.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's really wild to think that it's that many and that long.
Yeah. What gave you that idea? Yeah.
I love this story. I'm so glad you asked. I was listening early in 2016. I was listening actually to an episode of the Child Care Bar and Grill, the podcast that Jeff Johnson and Lisa Murphy used to do.
Oh, okay.
And I messaged Jeff and just said, have you ever thought about covering this topic, whatever it was? Oh, it was how we misuse research to push down academics. And he said, we haven't done that episode, but if you want to come talk about it with us, that'd be great. And I hadn't met either of them, and they're huge, Lisa Murphy especially. So I recorded an episode with them and I loved it so much. And I was messaging with Jeff a little later and I told him that I wanted to write a book. And he said, oh, don't write books. Nobody reads. But if you want to do a podcast, I'll help you get the podcast started. But after we recorded, I was like, okay, I'm going to cultivate this relationship for like a year and then I'll pitch a podcast. And this was all like within 2 months. And then I was recording my first episodes.
You're doing it.
Summer,
yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun.
That's great. Well, you've had so many incredible conversations with so many amazing people.
Yeah.
And kind of just thinking things through.
Yeah. I joke that I started the podcast to trick people into talking to me.
That's good.
People I look up to. So I did have a reason.
It's so good. I know for me, I felt like a point in my life where I just want to keep talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And playing around and diving into it and learning and hearing all the different angles and aspects of.
Yeah. And I think I'm so glad you started a podcast. I think for me, it's the conversations that I have on the podcast, but then also knowing that other people are listening to that. And it gives me such deep hope for work that is not always hopeful or does not always feel hopeful. To know that we have all these passionate thinkers and doers out there working for children.
That's right. And then you got it going through the airwaves. So it's out there. It's out there. So, okay, well, let me read your bio here so people can learn more about you, and then we can dive into some of your favorite stuff. Heather Bernt-Santy, MAED, also known as that early childhood nerd, has been working with children, their families, and their caregivers for over 35 years and has loved very nearly almost every minute. I love that. Yes. Yeah, truth in advertising. She is a believer in children's right to play and in the science that tells us play is right. I like that. Right to play. Play is right.
Thank you.
Yes. As that early childhood nerd, she offers consulting and webinars and hosts a podcast by the same name. She is the author of the book, Using Schema Play Theory to Advocate for Free Play
Yay!
in Early Childhood. I know that book is fresh off the presses.
It's coming. It's still pre-order when we're talking. By the time this comes out, I don't know. Maybe it'll be available then. But
Okay.
it's so wild. Yeah.
Yes. Well, tell us about that. The book writing. I mean, that's a huge thing, and then we can dive into what it's about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've wanted to write a book since I was 11. Since I read Little Women and Joe March was a writer, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I think the podcast, starting the podcast, actually, I think took some of that urgency away. Like I had this other outlet for getting thoughts out there or for contributing. But about 4 or 5-ish years ago, a publisher or an editor approached me. She was listening to the podcast during the pandemic, and she said, I think you should write a book. And so we started work on it. And then I got a cancer diagnosis and spent the next couple of years dealing with that. And when that was done, she reached out again and she said, hey, I'm with Teachers College Press now. Would you like to go back to this book project? I was like, is the Pope Catholic? Yes. Yes, I want to get back to this book idea. And, Teachers College Press has been great to work with. And Sarah is the editor. She's been great. I don't know. There were times when I thought, I've been talking about this for 2 years and I don't think I can really do it. But then I did it.
Yeah.
It was very
exciting.
You
did. Yes, you did. It is very exciting.
Yeah.
So, Play Schema. Let's just dive into that. And, so I'm coming at it as a lover and supporter of play, design for play, knowing that there's patterns and connections and children are drawn and there's instinct and there's all this stuff. But it's kind of new thinking and terminology for me and probably a lot of listeners, people.
I think it's really common and has been used a lot in like the UK and Australia and Canada, but in the States, not as much. There's been, Deb Curtis and Nadia Habanetta had a great book about it come out a few years ago. So essentially, my friend Tiffany Pearsall, who's been on That Early Childhood Nerd a lot, years ago sent me stuff about schema play. And I ignored it because I thought, oh, here we go again. Another buzzword, another trend. We're Reggio inspired because we have baskets in the classic. I really poo-pooed it and put it away. And then when I was working on my master's degree a few years later and had to come up with some kind of research project that was unique, I thought, okay, I'll revisit it. And it's built on the work of Chris Athey, who was an English college lecturer. She did this from 73 to 1978, this project called the Froebel Early Education Project, where they were observing children from 2 to 5 years old over the course of those 5 years, 6 years, whatever it was. I can't do math. Really wondering what they could learn about how children think by watching their play. And what came out of it was this recognition that there are repeated patterns in children's play that can be labeled and then wondered about and looked for and wondered about. She had over 40. We tend to now, subsequent work has kind of reframed it as these 8 or 10 categories of repeated patterns. And it made so much sense to me when I started thinking about, so one is like transporting. Kids just want to carry things around and dump things out and carry them back and put things in their pockets to walk around with and drive things around in trucks and all that. And trajectory, I'm not gonna be able to remember them all now, even though I just wrote a whole book about them. Connecting and disconnecting, orientation and perspective, like all these patterns that suddenly made some of the weird stuff that kids do when they choose their play make more sense. And a lot of that kind of stuff we label as aimlessness or flitting around or not knowing how to play, as we hear so often now, I'm hearing so often now, suddenly made a lot of sense. Here was this new framework to look at it through. And I found with college students, with parents that I'm working with colleagues, I have seen more kind of light bulb ahas coming on into their faces when I talk about schema play than any other thing that I've talked to them about. It's like suddenly all this weird stuff makes sense.
Because they can be like, Oh, yeah. My son is always carrying
Yeah.
things from da da da. Or he's always putting things in little
Yeah.
piles or.
Yeah, yeah. We think, oh, it's just a weird thing. Like I think about Freddie, who his real name is Freddie. In the book, he's George. I got permission from parents to tell the stories, but then the publisher said, no, you should still use pseudonyms. So I texted all the parents and I said, ask your kid what they want their name to be in my book.
Oh, that's funny.
And they had their names so fast. It was amazing. But anyway, Freddie would always, like if we were playing with Play-Doh or slime or anything, he would get like little counting bears and little manipulative things, put it inside and then wrap it all around. So it was like a ball around the thing. And he would like just wad paper up and put it in a drawer and close it in a drawer. And he always wanted to be working under tables instead of at the tables. And when he painted at the easel, he would paint the whole outside border of the big paper and then fill it in with paint. And that all just seemed like, well, Freddie's a little weird, until we had the schema framework. And I was like, oh, Freddie is enclosing and enveloping everywhere he goes. And his drive is to see, how do all these new materials fit this schema that I have? And it makes it so much more interesting. And his mom loves that. And that was years ago. And she still every now and again will say, is he still the king of enclosure? Like, yep, he is.
Nobody quite envelops like Freddie.
Nope.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I wonder if we could just back up a little bit and first have you describe what is play itself? What is that? And then to see like, okay, well then what is schema in that? But first, what is the nature of play?
Yeah, good job. Slow me down. Make me start over. No. So, I mean, I tend to kind of combine Stuart Brown and Peter Gray's ideas about defining play, and it ends up being, in my mind, play is something that's fun, that children choose, that they are motivated to do, even when we don't understand the motivation, right? They can quit when they want to quit. And, they make up their own rules about it, whether those rules are spoken or just acted out. But mostly it's about choice and fun. Whose idea was it? And is that person having fun with it?
And why play?
Well, so here I like to go to the Lego Foundation's work on brain development and learning through play.
Okay.
And they have 5 characteristics of an experience that make it playful and benefit the brain. And it's experiences that are meaningful to the child, socially interactive, actively engaging, iterative, they can repeat it a lot, and joyful. So in my mind, as I think about that, the only way that we can sort of ensure that something is meaningful to the child and joyful is to let them choose it, let them make the decisions about it. When I talk to my students sometimes and we talk about things being meaningful, they say, well, it is meaningful. It's a standard I have to meet. Or it is meaningful. It's in our curriculum goals. And that's not what we're talking about. It's meaningful to the child. And that's, I think play is the way to sort of get as close as we can to guaranteeing that an experience meets those characteristics that are good for their bodies and brains. We also just have a lot of research that says this is the way children are wired to learn and live.
Do you have any favorite research that points to to this?
I mean, I do really love that Lego Foundation work that does a good job of connecting all of the ways that meeting those 5 characteristics activate the parts of the brain that kids are really working on, birth to 5, especially the before school years. That's a favorite. Stuart Brown's book on play and all of that research. I really rely heavily too on the American Academy of Pediatrics Power of Play position paper that they put out several years ago, 2019, I think. And Peter Gray's, I think he first wrote about it in 2015, and then maybe last year a new follow-up piece came out about the connection that might be made, could possibly be made between a lack of play and independent choice and the rise in psychopathology in teenagers and children, which is a scarier one, but still we need that sometimes, right?
Yeah. it's interesting to think about, why play exists, or to look at it of humans,
Hmm.
or to look at it where people think, playful learning, like with Peter,
Yeah.
yeah, well, or Peter Gray saying self-directed learning.
Hmm.
And to think about, if we talked before about like having to defend play, or
Yeah.
you're always kind of in that position because it might not look like it's serious or it's academic to one lens, and yet it is the foundation of life, of growing, developing, finding who oneself is, and all that jazz. And so it's interesting, like Peter's like self-directed learning often is thought of for older children,
Hmm.
even high school age and all that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
it's like self-directed learning is just self-directed being, and
Yeah.
and it seems like that's what early childhood play
Hmm.
is. It's kind of a self-directed flow.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's a big part of the my book. And I think you were at the IPA USA session when I first kind of formed the idea of the crowds that we have to advocate to, and
Yeah.
making sure that we understand the value that someone holds. Like if they're a play skeptic, what is it that they value? And then I need to tell my play story in a way that connects with that
Yeah.
value.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know there are some people who say we need to stop defending play because that just makes it's like saying you don't get your brownie till you eat your broccoli. It makes it seem like there's something wrong with the broccoli. So if we're defending play all the time, there are people who are like, we're working against ourselves. But
Yeah. Yeah.
the reality is there are people who need to be persuaded if we want to ensure that children get more play or some play or any play, especially in the face of academic pressures that are pushing down into younger and younger years. We've got minds to change. And so we have to use our storytelling to match what will change their mind, maybe.
Yeah. And so with schema, how does that fit into it? Like I think about play as like this instinctual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so are these all little instincts that were coming from back primitive, when we were primitive humans for survival? Are these things that are making connections in the brain for future different things,
Uh-huh.
enveloping, or are these like learning to be on the planet, and what matter is, and
Uh-huh.
how things work? Is it
Yeah.
scientific study? What yeah, what is all that?
Oh my God. I think it's all of those things. I mean, I think a case could be made for all of those things, but specifically with my work with schema play, it is sort of acknowledging that they're building their brains and constructing knowledge by being active in the world. They aren't ready for that sort of just, I mean, I don't think any of us are really super ready for this, but that abstract, your head is empty and I have the knowledge, so I'll pour it in. Like that's not how any of this works.
Uh-huh.
So I think it starts with the drive to explore. I sort of in the book and in other places use explore and play interchangeably.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
think they do have that drive because they're so brand new to the world. They have so much to figure out, and they don't figure it out by just seeing it or hearing it from someone else. They have to have it in their hands, their head, their heart, as Bev Boss would say. Um, and while they're doing that, they're saying, oh, this is new. How does it fit with what I already experienced? Or this is the same as what I've already experienced. And that's kind of safe and cool. And in doing that, they construct knowledge that does contribute to future academic success or experience. But in the meantime, it's just their way of being human. And we try too often to change the way young children are being human to look more like an adult way of being
Uh-huh.
human. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
when we get in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's funny to see families, even like, families where parents might be proper and have a nice way of doing things, and nice and neat,
Yeah.
and then their kid is doing all these crazy things, and you can see them be like, I'm so embarrassed that
Yes.
they're
Yes.
whatever, rolling around in the tall
Yes.
grass or, whatever it is, splashing in mud.
Hmm.
But right, I mean, that's sort of the fascinating and beautiful thing about childhood and
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think what I really love about the schema play theory is that you can use the word theory, which
Yeah.
sometimes parents are more influenced by than just Heather said.
That's good. Theory.
um,
Yes. Oh, theory.
so yeah,
I'm
so I say,
gonna come up with some theories.
it looks like, they're just mixing all the colors of Play-Doh together to be destructive and disrespectful of materials, but really, this could be a transforming experience in line with schema play theory.
Uh,
And then they're suddenly like, oh, my kid's a genius then. I just thought they were weird, but look at how smart they are.
oh, they're going right along with the theory.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So wait, that was transforming.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Changing, exploring how materials change when you take different actions on them, like mixing Play-Doh colors or painting something or even pretend play. They're transforming themselves into a cat or a mom or a bad guy. So taking something familiar and making it different, making it new is the transforming schema.
Huh. And so could that just be loose parts play also is
For sure.
transforming materials or so
Yeah.
it could be imagination, but it also could be
Actual
solid
physical
material.
transformation. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like any kind of any area of child development, it's interrelated. It's rarely just one thing. You know, sometimes there are children like Freddie, or another little guy, Jerry, who have like one schema and that's the way they play. But then others are just kind of doing all the different schemas at different times throughout their play.
Uh-huh. So when you're observing, I don't know if at the college if you have two-way glass or what.
No.
No, no. But you're in the corner with a clipboard or people are.
Yeah.
So are you like, oh look, they're doing this one now, or they're doing
Hmm.
that one now.
I mean, sometimes in the moment, you just look at it and you say, oh my gosh, this is fun. Look at that positioning and ordering they're doing. But especially with writing the book, I relied heavily on photos and really, because then you can really look deeply outside of the moment and wonder. I think it's, to use one of my favorite words, tremendous hubris to think we can ever really know what a child is learning, but we can wonder and we can think about and we can then experiment and add things to see if that's how they keep, exploring or whatever. But it was really looking at photos and then thinking, which schema do I think this most closely fits into? And then breaking it down into, okay, so what might be the social value they're getting from this? What might be the math value that they're getting from this? What might be happening with their brain development? And in that way, I can use all that. Like if someone's super worried about social emotional learning, then I can make a social emotional argument. Or if someone's only interested in STEM for early childhood, then I can make a science argument based on looking deeply and wondering about this play.
Huh.
You look skeptical
No,
or
no, no.
something.
No, no,
Okay.
no. So I'm no, so I'm thinking about it in terms of like, okay, the baby's born and
Yeah.
still in like the other world, the other
Mhm.
realm, and then coming into this realm, and yeah, both as experimenting, exploring the
Mhm.
planet, but themselves
Yep.
in this, but then also, I remember this moment with my older son when young. So
Uh-huh.
first he's little, infant, and but there was suddenly this moment where maybe he grabbed both his feet. I don't know how many months old he was. And suddenly it was like there was this connection made. I could see he changed. Like there was something in his eyes that
I love it.
it was like, and then he was different. He was in the next. It was like once both hands were gripping both feet,
Uh-huh.
There was some pattern, there was some
Uh-huh.
connection, some flow that now was happening, and then he went on to the next thing.
Uh-huh.
And so it's interesting just to think about the brain growing,
Mm-hmm.
like the network that it is, all those connections, and
Yeah.
do these things keep making these connections, and how
Mm-hmm.
we become human, or how we
Yeah.
become.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I like to think about that piece of it being joyful or being meaningful, because they have that connection. Something like that happens, and the child's not consciously probably thinking, oh, this is a new connection. But
Yeah.
chemicals released in the brain make it a fun thing. And then I want to do it again. And then I want to do it again. And with each repetition, you have an opportunity to notice something different or experience something different and have a new connection. And it just rolls and rolls and rolls.
Wow. I had a funny experience recently, and I was thinking of you. We had a friend who was got their toddler. Maybe he's 3. He just
God,
turned
I love
3.
toddlers. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and there's they talk about the terrible twos, but then
Yes.
the joke is that no one says anything about the threes because they're so bad, or something. She said three
Yeah.
danger. But
Yes.
I don't. We were outside and there was something going on. There was a little bit of tension happening. Maybe he was bugging one of my sons who were
Uh-huh.
trying to. And I thought, oh, I'll get him. I'll divert him, and I'm going to give him something that he cannot say no to. So I was just like, "Come on over. You want to feed the bird feed? You want to pour seeds, bird seed into the bird feeder?" And he was just like, "Yes." So it was just like, just
It's all I
scooping,
want to do
yes,
forever.
scooping the bird seed, pouring the bird
Uh-huh.
seed, and I just had to chuckle because I was like, he can't help himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's such a good example of how, as an adult, that's not as interesting to us anymore. We have so many years of experience that we just, like, I feed my cat every morning, I scoop it, I dump it, I move on. But for someone who's been on Earth 36 months,
Uh-huh.
it's not just the pouring, it's the watching how it moves through space. So maybe that's a trajectory schema, watching how the bird food seed whatever moves, and the sound that it makes, and the smell. Like, it's a multi-sensory thing, where for me in the morning it's just, shut up, I'm feeding you, I've got to go to work with the cat. She's beautiful. I'm so sorry, Gwen, that I said that about you. In case she listens.
Yes, in case she listens.
But it's hard to get our adult brains back into that, because we don't have to think that way anymore, and we don't experience everything, or we're not as open to the multi-sensory stuff, because it's not necessary for us anymore. We're moving through the world in a different
Huh.
way. And that's one thing that I think schema theory helps me get back to, because it's not looking at the noun that they're making, it's looking at the verb that they're doing. And that pulls me back into a space where, yes, they have to be active. It's not a product, it's the process. And sometimes that's really hard for grown-ups to do, especially if you've got 23-year-olds in your space and you're trying to figure it all out. It's really hard.
Yeah, right. I mean, can you imagine? Yeah, to look at all the schemas, everything that's happening at the
Yeah.
same time.
Well, and so that when I talk to groups, they're all like, oh yeah, I see that happen. Yeah, that's so funny or exciting or new. But also I get that, okay, so how do you make sure they do all the schema? Like, we want to make it linear, and we want to make it standardized, because that's our traditional way of
Yeah,
thinking about
sure.
education, right? So they're thinking, okay, I need to plan a trajectory time every day, and I need to plan a transporting time every day. And how can I pay attention to everybody's schema when we're doing everything together all the time? And I think that's where play comes into it. We don't have to be in control of everything. We've set up the environment, we trust the children, we're letting them play, and then we can move through and notice the things like schema play better than if we're leading the whole group through the same thing. We all do circle time, and then we all do an activity, and then we all do this together,
Yeah.
like the traditional childcare schedule. So we have to, it requires a lot of shifting for the adults. This is my long way of saying that.
Huh. Well, it's interesting to shift from the doing to the observing, or
Yes.
supporting, and maybe the doing is getting that environment set up,
Yeah.
getting the materials and
Yeah.
the space.
and the wondering. Like part of this for me, the more I started to look for schema play and notice it, and then especially as I was writing a book and trying to make a case about what value it had, was professional development for myself. So it was observing and not doing and being in charge. But then there was also another piece where it's like, I need to learn more about math. I thought I understood math foundational skills for preschool children, but I maybe I need to learn more. And I did. I learned so much more about how we need to move away from just numbers to mathematical thinking to really understand what these experiences, what kind of value these experiences bring to children in the years before school. So I think there's two, it's observing, but it's also wondering. That is an active piece that we can do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. And that gives adults something to do.
Yes.
Oh, you can wonder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because the question always is, and you've probably heard this too, if they're just playing, then how am I a teacher? What am I supposed to do with all my skills and ideas and the beautiful things I make that I cut out and laminate? And how am I still a professional if I'm just letting children play? And I mean, those are you observe and you wonder, and then you add and you can extend and support and advocate. And that's how we're professionals. It's different from being a teacher of older children. Should be different. Or maybe older children should be different.
It'd be nice if there's more wondering at that level too.
Yes, we need a push up instead of a push down.
That's right. Well, how about the environment? If we think about that, the preparing the environment, with schema theory in mind, of like thinking about, trying to give kids what they want, give that brain that can't help it what it wants, and maybe we can think about outdoors, since I'm kind of interested in the outdoors especially, but play for everywhere. So how would you prepare an outdoor space that could
well, I would this is like the one place where I think a checklist might come in handy, but I would make a list of the 8 or 10 schema, depending on how you talk about them. Most commonly, it's a list of 8 or a list of 10, and look around my playground space, my outdoor space, and say, do they have materials here to transport with, or things to transport? Is it safe for them to practice trajectory schema with their body? Are my expectations aligned to them doing that? How many places can they go for perspective and orientation exploration? So really just looking around at your space with this list of, most of them are verbs, with this list of verbs that we know children repeat often in their play, and explicitly saying, okay, that allows for transporting, that allows for transforming, that allows for connecting and disconnecting. And then if there are gaps, there's a bajillion lists that you can Google of ways of things to add for schema play.
Is that true?
Yeah, there's a lot. It's not coming from the States, but there's some stuff out there. Kathy Brody has some good stuff. Oh, I shouldn't have started naming names, because there's a woman in Canada who has specifically lists of loose parts for schema play. Michelle something. Anyway, so we can then see what we already have and think about what we could bring in for the things we don't have. But also we need to include ourselves in that environmental review. Like, am I stopping it because I don't like risky play? So trajectory schema makes me nervous because they want to jump through the air, or they want to go down the slide head first on their back to do a positioning and ordering exploration. But I don't like that. So we're part of that too. We have to think about our comfort levels and our expectations and do a risk benefit analysis, which I learned from your book. Okay. And I think that's the one place that I'm okay with using a checklist to evaluate.
To see do I have the stuff out there. Gosh, it's interesting with thinking about like materials and the different uses. And so I flashed to like Montessori materials, where both say schema theory and say Montessori materials. The materials that entice the children. But I feel like Montessori is like, oh, look at these pink blocks. Aren't they enticing? You want to be over here. But you use them in a certain
Right.
way.
Yeah.
A scheme. There's a scheme.
Yes. Yeah.
Montessori is a scheme, and this is schema
This
theory.
is
No.
schema. Yes.
So it's like,
Yeah.
there's ways that you can use the enticing things for a goal, adult goal-oriented kind of activity. And then the schema theory is kind of like children are wanting to do these things. So we give them the materials and then we kind of stand back and observe and watch what happens.
Yeah. To bring a little Reggio into the comparison, it's your image of the child, right? Montessori, the image is that they're capable, but we want them doing this one thing with it, right? They need to be active and it needs to maybe be choice, but we want them to do this one specific thing with it.
Yeah.
Because they have a deficit. If they don't do that thing, sorry, Montessori people, I love a lot of it.
Of course, sure, of course.
But then when we're talking about schema play, it's sort of, for me, it's a whole different image where the child is someone who has their own good ideas, and there's value in letting them explore and follow their own ideas. I could bring all the theorists in. So then that's Erik Erikson.
Okay. Yeah, bring them in. Bring them in.
Guilt, initiative versus shame and guilt. Is it okay to try my own idea? Or am I going to get in trouble for trying my own idea?
Oh.
Or am I going to...
Initiative versus shame and guilt? That's
a... Yeah. It's one of the 8 stages of man.
Right.
Anyway, I just think your image of the child will determine whether schema play is something that I plan and lead an activity for so that they meet my curriculum goal, or whether it is something that we provide for children because we know they deserve it. We can trust them. We can trust that process has meaning, whether we completely understand it or not.
Yeah.
I think it's a real shift. Sorry if all the Montessoris come after you now. Send them my way.
I just did a talk at a Montessori little summit, and somebody at the very end, I'm showing all these messy environments and lots of loose parts and stuff. And somebody asked me, well, how do you create an orderly environment? And I said, you're asking the wrong person.
Right. Yeah.
You're asking the wrong person here.
Yeah. It's like when I get a question about how do you get them to clean up?
Yeah. Unless it's a schema. Then ordering.
Well, there can be. Yes, you can. I mean, the other value of a schema, or the other connecting point with schema play, is that it does help us reframe things that are thought of as misbehavior. And it even can help us redirect to something else. Like they're throwing blocks. If we just stop at, well, that's just misbehavior and I've got to shame it out of this child. That's certainly one way to spend your day. Yeah. But if you see it as, oh, I wonder if they're just experimenting with trajectory, what else could I give them to move through the air that's not going to be as harmful as a giant wooden block?
Yep. Have a good spot for it because it's important for whatever reason. Have there ever been any longitudinal studies about, say, Freddie, people who are like, I'm enveloped, and then what do they do?
Not that I'm aware of. No, this question comes up a lot, though. No, I don't, because I think there just aren't many longitudinal studies about children's choice, about play, true free play, because it's hard to get funding for that, because it's harder to justify. We don't see the educational value. We don't see the return on investment, all the different narratives we've got commodifying children. So it's hard. But it is a question I get a lot is, so then do adults have schema, and do you see that carry through? Like if Freddie is all this enclosure and enveloping stuff when he's 4, what do we know about how he behaves and handles materials when he's 20?
Or become an architect that envelops people. There's structures keep going. Or
I mean, I think about myself anecdotally. I did a lot of transforming play as a kid, making potions, pretending things. I did, those little pot holders that were very popular with 70s kids. And now I still do a lot of transforming. I weave and I knit and I crochet and all that stuff. And I'm I still pretend a lot. I love a good flannel nightgown to pretend I'm wandering the moors in the cold.
That's good.
Being destitute. I love a good taper candle in a candlestick holder to pretend I'm old timey. All that
Very
stuff.
good. Yes.
So I think for myself, I see that trend continuing, but that's not empirical.
Well, it's interesting because it's like some is that behavior, like, oh, okay, this person. I mean, have you ever seen the movie series Seven Up?
No.
Seven. Oh, this is interesting.
If it was made after 1960, I probably haven't seen the movie.
Well, it's
unless Olivia Newton-John or Will Ferrell.
That's funny. Well, here's the deal. I think it started in the 60s. And they basically said the quote was something like sexist, but it's like, show me the child at 7 and I'll show you the man. And it was saying, okay, well, they followed a group of kids who were 7 years old. And then every 7 years they did another installment of the documentary, and you saw like what similarities you'd be interested in this. What similarities? Who have they become? Who were they as a teenager, as a young adult? And now they're, I don't know, in their 60s or 70s. And there's still some that are participating from the original.
Oh, wow.
And so it is interesting, just to see. And, it's interesting because some is like this behavior of things that we like to do. We like to do, I like to draw when I was a kid, or I like to build stuff, and I'm still doing it now. That's who I was, or who I am. But then schema almost feels like, if you just bring it back here, that it's almost like beneath that. It's almost like some fundamental humanity thing, and maybe animals too. That's another question for you. But it's almost like that's different than like likes and dislikes or talents, or that it's almost like, right? It's something fundamental.
I would agree with that. Yeah, for sure. I think. Well, I think process versus product can come into that, right? Because if we think about skills and talents, we're thinking about ability to make a product. I am anyway.
Okay.
But when I'm thinking about schema exploration, it's much more just about repeating processes over and over and over without necessarily having an end goal, which could contribute to the development of a talent for sure.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just processing this out loud now. That's interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, because it's like, because you're really good at pouring, that doesn't mean you're going to be a pourer,
right?
A mixologist, or even, but it's, I mean, I could see that, like when kids are pouring, and it's almost like, and then it's time for snack, and they get called out, almost like a dream, right? It's almost like they were, like it is almost an altered state.
Right. Pulling them out of that flow. Yeah.
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 Huh.
I think about this with people who say, I was called to teach because I loved playing school when I was a kid. I was like, or did you just have a transforming schema and school was a familiar context to pretend? And now you've taken it as your calling, and that's fine. But there's always that part of my brain that's like, or were you just transforming?
Right. It had nothing to do with your vocation or what you should do with your life. And now you're stuck.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Because you're a good pourer.
Right. Yeah.
Transformer. Huh. Oh gosh, yeah, that's interesting. Just like, I mean, I think about all the play, and then the schema theory is like, how do we get on board being human? Going from 2 cells to being born, infancy, then on.
Yeah. We hear, or I see on social media all the time, this quote, play is the work of the child. And sometimes it's Montessori that it's attributed to, and sometimes it's Piaget that it's attributed to. And I think Mr. Rogers gets thrown in there.
Yep.
And we love it. We collectively, maybe not you and me here in this conversation, but
I don't love that quote.
No, me neither, because it's very much like, I don't know, our adult understanding of work. Work's
important. So they're trying to be like, work's important.
That's why play is important, because it's work. Yeah. But if we had to take the phrase and use it, I would hope that it could be translated as, that just means it's what they should be doing, right? It just means that this is important at this part of their lives. I mean, it should be important for all our lives, but especially in these early years, that we just recognize that they have a right to play.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes play looks meaningless, or, one of the things I really hate is the label functional play.
Okay.
It makes my skin crawl a little bit. Functional for who? Like, exploring how blocks move through space is functional for that child in the moment because it's something they're trying to figure out or just enjoying doing. If we don't like it, we can put boundaries on it maybe, or give them something else to throw. But ultimately, it's what they should be doing. So whatever tools we have to help us understand that and accept that and then provide for that, I'm a fan of. So Schema does it for me.
Yeah. This is what they should be doing.
Yeah.
So right to play, why don't we, that'll just lead me to ask you about, tell us about like IPA. Now you have just gotten elected as a co-president of this great organization, the International Association for the Child's Right to Play, USA chapter.
Yep. IPA USA. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to the conferences late October in Louisville. Louisville. I'm told the closer you get to it, the fewer syllables there should be.
So it's just Louisville.
It's just such a good time to be with not just other early childhood folks, but there's people working with all ages and in museums and libraries and college professors and parks departments, and all of these people united around the idea that we have to take seriously the child's right to play. And so this will be my third IPA USA conference. And gonna do a little presenting. So that'll be fun. I don't remember what my topic is. Something about Schema.
I bet.
I'm sure I tweaked it a little bit so that people don't get sick of me.
Could never
words,
happen.
But
could never happen.
Yeah, I just love that. I just love the conference. It's just really uplifting. Even last year when we got stuck in a hurricane in South Carolina, everybody still really came through. And we switched over to Zoom and we supported each other and learned from each other.
Wow.
Yeah. So everybody should come.
Yeah, for sure. I got hurricaned out. I couldn't get to the conference. I was on my way, but I couldn't get to it. I'm going to get to it this year. I'm excited because one of the days is going to be at the Bernheim Forest, and you can come build fairy huts with me. Oh my
God, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that blew my mind the first IPA conference I went to, USA conference I went to, was that the day when we're out in the spaces. Like, they find these amazing play spaces in the city where the conference is.
Yeah.
And we go out and we see it happening in the real world, right? Because that's what we hear is that play's fine, but not in the real world. And then we go see it in the real world.
Yeah, there it is.
Fairy huts, I love it.
Yay. All right. Thanks for listening. Do you have a comment or a question? Email me at playnaturepodcast@gmail.com. You know I like talking about this stuff. And maybe we could use your question on a future podcast episode. As always, I have some free goodies for you in the show notes, including my outdoor loose parts guide. Fun stuff in there. And so I wish you the best in your outdoor play adventures. And when it comes to adding nature to your yard, or loose parts, or saying yes to risky play, my favorite motto is dream big, start small, and never stop. Oh yeah. Woo, 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 woo. Let's do it. All right. Have fun out there.